This one shall henceforth be known as the anti-yoga video. This could get bad. Before we get started, I want to make it clear that this is coming from a place of love. This is backed by science. But if you still think that yoga is the best way to develop the mobility that you need on the ice, I'm going to try to show you that there's a better way. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with yoga. So let's get that out there right off the bat. Yoga is fantastic. If you love doing yoga, keep doing yoga. Even for your mobility, it's like everything. There's good, better, best. And if being the best you can be on the ice is what's most important to you, then I'm going to give you a better way to develop the mobility that you need as a goalie. And I know that some of you are going to say, oh, but my instructor does goalie yoga, and we do FRC, and we do some of the techniques you show, and that's great. It's not yoga. It's mobility training, maybe taught by a yoga instructor. So that's awesome too. Let's start by looking at what's awesome about yoga. You have to hold static postures in different positions. So that's good. That builds some muscular endurance in those positions. It does put you in a sustained stretch position. It gets you to stretch. So sometimes, just the act of going to a class, having that accountability, having an instructor there, that's what gets you to invest the time into your mobility training that you need. There's that kind of Zen aspect. It helps you kind of clear your mind and think about your breathing, and those all have tremendous benefits. And now we'll look at what you need specifically as a goalie. What you need specifically as a goalie is strength at length. Let me say that again, strength at length. So you need to be able to get into those awkward postures with control, and you need to be able to recover from them quickly without anything going toing and tearing, so that you're ready to make the next save. We also have to really account for, yes, these positions are really awkward and very different. So how are we going to develop strength in those postures? So let's look at a few really basic examples of how you can develop your goalie mobility, focusing on building strength at length in the positions where you need it. So you don't tear your groin, or goalies don't tear their groin because they need to stretch their groin more. They tear their groin because the load exceeds the control. There's no strength, there's no control, so then the muscle gets in a position where it's so vulnerable that it tears. So we're going to start just with a tall kneeling groin position. So I'm as wide in my knees as I can without sitting back in my hips or arching my low back to stay up nice and tall. I'm going to start by holding this position for 30 to 60 seconds. This is going to be a long sequence. This is, it's almost more like specific strength training than it is stretching by far. After we've held that for 30 to 60 seconds, then we're going to gradually start squeezing our knees together. We're going to squeeze them into the floor. As if we were on the ice, then we'd be pulling closing our 5-hole. So we're going to build that up, but we're going to build it up to a good, strong contraction. And we'll hold that for 30 seconds. We'll build it up and hold for over 30 seconds. Then for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to pull my knees apart, like I'm trying to pull myself down closer to the floor. But again, I'm not going to sit back to get that, and I'm not going to hyperextend my low back to get that. I'm just pulling apart. After I've done 30 seconds of pulling apart, then I'm just going to relax and hold that stretch for 30 more seconds. So we're building strength in those adductors at a lengthened position. We're building strength in our abductors when they're in a shortened position, which also can give some stimulus to kind of relax our groin muscles so we can get a little bit more distance on the stretch. This is going to look very familiar to most of you because in case you missed the video, the last video, video number 3, we went over the 3 most important stretches for every goalie to do. And this is actually a progression of one of those from the last video. And it's not to say that you don't need to do that version, but this is the version where you're going to build some strength and end range. So we're going to get into this half kneeling hip internal rotation position. And again, if you're like, well, how is she set up? How is exactly she set up? Where should her pelvis be? Just go back and check the video episode number 3. I walk you through exactly how to set it up, how to make sure that your pelvis is in the proper position, how not to put too much stress on this hip, because you could actually injure yourself by doing this wrong. So make sure you check that out. But we get in this position, we just take the slack out. So I'm not cranking on this, trying to sort of force myself in internal rotation. I'm just taking the slack out of the system. So I feel tension. You're not going to feel a big stretch in those muscles. It just feels like, yeah, I've taken up the slack. That's what it feels like. From this position, I'm going to try, without turning my body, I'm going to try to turn on the muscles that would lift my foot off the wall. I probably won't be able to lift my foot off the wall because I'm at my end range of internal rotation, but I'm turning on the muscles that would do that if I had the room. So I'm staying tall, and watch, because without realizing it, like if you find like, oh geez, I'm getting my foot off the wall, 99 times out of 100, you've turned your pelvis, and that's what's letting you get that. So stay there, try to lift that foot away from the wall for 10 seconds, and then relax. And then again, fix your position, take the slack out of the system, and go again for 10 seconds. You'll do 3 sets of 10 seconds. That is going to be hard. It's going to be hard, and you're going to feel like, geez, I don't feel like I'm generating much tension. No, because you're not, because you're weak in that position, and it's a weak position for your hip to be in. But this is what we need to build if we're going to be able to hold that butterfly flare as we like half butterfly slide across the crease to rob their best sniper who's just parked right there at the bottom of the circles ready to take a little one-timer. And this one will also look familiar, but it's a different purpose. So in the last video we worked on some rotary patterns. In this video the focus is building strength at length. So we're going to use a different technique. So I'm in my half groin position. I'm as deep as I can get without sitting back in my hips or hyperextending at my back. I'm going to hold this position for 30 to 60 seconds. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down on this foot. I'm going to push this foot into the floor, building tension until I'm really pushing with almost my maximum force. And I'm going to build that in for 30 seconds. So what I'm doing is I'm getting that muscle in a lengthened position, but now I'm generating strength. So I can exert maximum force isometrically. That means without any movement. I don't need a weight to contract my biceps with as much force as I possibly can. I don't need a weight to do that. I can do that just by concentrating and contracting my muscle. And the same goes here. So it's almost like if I put you in this position and then somehow could load you with a weight, and we found how much weight you could tolerate, and then we had you do reps at that with that load. It's a safe way to do it because it's a static contraction. We're building the contraction over time, over 30 seconds. So that's how we're going to start building that strength at length. And this is sort of an intermediate step. We would then go on to, techniques like FRC and things like that that you'll find in Shutout Academy and strategic mobility. But this is a perfect place to start building that strength and length. So, hey, I can get out here, make a save, but then, you know, still recover back without hurting myself and get ready to make the next save. So even pro hockey goalies still do yoga as their primary source of mobility training. And a lot of them during this lockdown have sort of been, you know, forced to look for a different way, and they've been in the Shutout Academy and doing some of these different techniques. And now that they're getting back on the ice, they can't believe the difference in how they feel and how they move and the control that they have over their body. I'm not saying yoga's bad. I'm not saying you can't do yoga. I know too that lots of really good looking people do yoga, and then Lululemon kits them out in really cool clothes to do yoga. So I know some guys and girls like to go to yoga for the scenery, and that has value too. Yoga is fine, but if your focus is being as mobile as possible the way you need to be as a goalie, then these are some better techniques. These are some better ways to get you to that end point. You can still do yoga. It's still great cross training, but let's focus on, for your mobility training, let's do that. It's sort of like, you know, you might really like Zumba class, but that's not going to be your primary sort of strength training, or, you know, your primary cardio training. You're going to do things that help prepare you specifically for what you're going to do on the ice, and this is just really an extension of that. So are we still friends? Are we cool? Do you want to hit the like button? Just so I know. I need reassurance. Okay, cool. That's great then. I'm glad that you took it with the spirit. It was coming from a place of love. We'll move past it. In the next video of this series, what's that going to be? I think video number 5, episode number 5, I'm going to answer the question, how do I know if I have hip impingement?
That's beyond my abilities at the moment.
It's beyond Siri's abilities, but it's not beyond my abilities. So make sure if you have any questions about hip pain, hip impingement, you put them in the comments below so that I can cover them when I put together that video and hopefully answer them for you. I'll answer your comment too. I answer every single comment myself. So do that. If you missed episode number 3, it's the 3 most important stretches that every goalie should do. And otherwise, don't forget to hit like, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss the rest of the videos in this series. And I'm out of here. I'm gonna go get my Lululemons on and rock some yoga. I'll catch you next time. Was that too cheeky? Is it a little too soon? Yeah, I thought it was maybe a little too soon.